Friends, if you want to watch super hit movie The Spiderwick Chronicles in English, then you must like this video. If you are visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Friends, in today's video, the movie we're going to talk about is called The Spiderwick Chronicles. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch it, all the interesting facts about this movie in today's video. I am going to tell you, I also going to give you all the information on which OT platform or on which satellite channel you will get to watch this movie. Also, we will talk in detail about the technical department, music department, pre-production filming, post-production budget, box office collection of this film. We will also talk about the story of this film, and I will also give you a small review of the story of this film. Apart from this, we will discuss about the facts of this film's storyline, star cast actors' performance in the film, and which character has played which role. That's why I request you friends to watch this video till the end, so let's start the video. The Spiderwick Chronicles is a 2008 American fantasy adventure film directed by Mark Waters from a screenplay by Carrie Kirkpatrick, David Barenbaum, and John Sayles, based on the book series The Spiderwick Chronicles by Tony DiTerlizzi and Holly Black. It stars Freddie Highmore, Mary Louise Parker, and Sarah Bolger, with Nick Nolte, Seth Rogen, and Martin Short in voice roles. The film, set in the Spiderwick estate in New England, follows three children who discover a field guide to fairies while encountering various magical creatures, such as goblins, ogres, brownies, boggarts, hobgoblins, trolls, and many others. The film is dedicated to Scott Rathner, who died on August 12, 2007. Produced by Nickelodeon Movies and distributed by Paramount Pictures, The Spiderwick Chronicles was released on February 14, 2008, earning $162.8 million against its $90 million budget. The film received generally positive reviews from critics, with Highmore's dual performance being singled out for praise. The film was released on DVD and Blu-ray on June 24, 2008, in the United States. Plot: in 1928, Arthur Spiderwick writes a field guide about the many fairies he has encountered. After finishing the book, he hides it away for fear of Mulgarath, a shape-shifting ogre who plans to use the book's secrets for evil. 80 years later, recently divorced Helen Grace inherits and moves into the abandoned Spiderwick estate with her children, daughter Mallory, and twin sons Jared and Simon. Jared is angry about the move and would rather live with his father in New York. After uncovering a hidden dumbwaiter, Jared discovers Arthur's study, where he finds the field guide. When Jared explains his discovery of the book and the existence of magical creatures, his family does not believe him. The next morning, Jared meets a brownie named Thimbletack, who is initially angry with Jared for having opened the book that he needed to protect from Mulgarath. Jared placates him with crackers and honey, and Thimbletack gives Jared a hold stone that allows Jared to see the normally invisible fairies by looking through it. Thimbletack tells him about the protective mushroom circle surrounding the house. Jared witnesses Simon's abduction by goblins led by Redcap. Simon is taken to the goblins' campsite, where he is confronted by Mulgarath, disguised as an old man. Jared sneaks into the campsite, where he meets Hogsqueal, a hobgoblin, who gives Jared the ability to see fairies without the stone by spitting in his eyes, so he can help him get revenge on Mulgarath for killing his family. Mulgarath releases Simon so he can fetch the book for him. Jared finds Simon, and both fight over the book before they are chased by the goblins. The twins flee back to the house, and Mallory fights them off with her fencing saber. The children decide to visit Arthur's daughter, their great-aunt Lucinda Spiderwick, for advice. While Simon distracts the goblins, Mallory and Jared escape through an underground tunnel. Chased by a mole troll sent by Redcap, they narrowly escape when it is struck and killed by an oncoming truck. Jared and Mallory meet the elderly Lucinda in the psychiatric hospital where she lives, surrounded by sprites. She tells the children that they need to find her father and have him destroy the book, and that for 80 years, Arthur has been held captive by the sylphs. At that moment, Redcap and his goblins attack them through the window and manage to tear off several pages from the book before being driven off. Among the stolen pages, Mulgarath is pleased to find information on how to break the protective circle and plans to create a potion in order to do so during the night of a full moon. While Helen is driving home, she and Jared argue over her disbelief, Jared angrily tells Helen that he hates her and does not want to live with her anymore. Later, Hogsqueal, having overheard Mulgarath's plan, informs the children. When Jared tries and fails to contact his father again, Mallory tells him the truth. He's dating another woman and has moved in with her. Jared, Simon, and Mallory use the book to summon a griffin, which takes them to the Sylph's realm. There, they meet Arthur, who has not aged and is initially unaware of the time he has spent there. Jared asks him to destroy the book, only to find out that Thimbletack had switched the pages and kept the real book. Arthur is relieved until Jared tells him that Mulgarath knows how to break the protective circle. Arthur informs Jared that the Sylphs will not allow them to leave as they, like him, know too much about the fairies, and the fairies do not want them to reveal their existence to the world. Arthur helps them escape by distracting the Sylphs with the fake book. At home, the children finally convince Helen of the truth. Meanwhile, the goblins finish spreading their potion, which successfully breaks the circle as the full moon rises. The family defend themselves with kitchen knives and tomato sauce salt bombs, ingredients deadly to goblins, and manage to kill the goblins in an explosion of tomato sauce. Suddenly, the children's father, Richard, appears. However, Jared, suspicious about his father's words and behavior, stabs him, revealing him to be Mulgarath in disguise. Mulgarath pursues Jared and the book throughout the house before cornering him on the roof. Jared tosses the book and Mulgarath transforms into a raven to catch it, but he is suddenly snatched and eaten by Hogsqueal. Afterwards, Jared and his mother reconcile. Jared refuses to live with his father again and decides to only live with his mother instead. Several weeks later, the family brings Lucinda to visit the house. The Sylphs arrive with Arthur, allowing him to briefly visit now that the book is safe. However, Arthur cannot stay long as he will turn to dust if he remains. Lucinda asks to go with him and is transformed back into a child. The Grace family watch as the Sylphs spirit Arthur and Lucinda away, and they are now free to continue and live happily in their new home. Cast: Freddie Highmore as the Grace twins, the main protagonist, the black sheep of the family, and the most reluctant about moving from New York. Simon Grace, Jared's identical twin brother and a pacifistic animal lover. Mary Louise Parker as Helen Grace, the children's overprotective mother. Nick Nolte as Mulgarath, an evil shape-shifting ogre, the leader of the goblins and the main antagonist. Sarah Bolger as Mallory Grace, Jared and Simon's firm and brave older sister. Andrew McCarthy as Richard Grace, Jared, Simon, and Mallory's divorced and neglectful father. McCarthy also portrays Mulgarath's disguise of Richard. Joan Plowright as Lucinda Spiderwick, the daughter of Arthur Spiderwick and Constance Spiderwick. Geordie Benneter as young Lucinda Spiderwick. David Strathairn as Arthur Spiderwick, the author of the guide and former owner of the mansion. Lise Durocher-Viens as Constance Spiderwick, the wife of Arthur Spiderwick and mother of Lucinda Spiderwick. Todd Fennell as Helen Grace's co-worker. Mariah Inger as nurse. Jeremy LaValle as tow truck driver. Voice cast: Seth Rogen as Hogsqueal, an unintelligent bird-eating hobgoblin who seeks revenge against Mulgarath for killing his family. Martin Short as Thimbletack, a loyal house brownie who shapeshifts into an aggressive boggart when he becomes angry. Ron Perlman as Redcap, Mulgarath's aggressive and loyal general of his goblin army. His role is uncredited. Ben Diskin, Bob Joles, Jonathan Lippo, John Mariano, Nolan North, Chris Parson, and Fred Tatasciore perform the goblin voices. Production. Filming. In an interview, Sarah Bolger said that filming took 4 to 5 months. She said that she was the blue screen like 24 hours a day, and for the most part, she was kicking and slicing and chopping things that were nowhere near. Since Bolger had many fencing scenes, she had 5 weeks of intense training and 3 hours with the Canadian Olympic fencing coach nearly every day. Music. Main article, The Spiderwick Chronicles soundtrack. Ception. Critical response. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 81%, based on 149 reviews, with an average rating of 6.70 or 10. The site's critical consensus reads, The Spiderwick Chronicles is an entertaining children's adventure with heart and imagination to spare. On Metacritic, the film has an average score of 62 out of 100 based on 30 reviews. Audiences surveyed by CinemaScore gave the film a grade A on scale of A to F. Critics called it decent entertainment, a work of both modest enchantment and enchanting modesty, and modest and reasonably charming. It was criticized for its reliance on special effects. A.O. Scott of the New York Times said that the movie feels more like a sloppy second-hand pander, and called it frantic with incident and hectic with computer-generated effects, and another said that the sense of wonder and magic is lost in the shuffle. Despite some negative reviews for the film overall, Highmore was generally praised for his dual role as the twins Simon and Jared. One critic said that he skillfully portrays two distinctive personas, another said he had no trouble grasping the task at hand, and a third remarked that the most special effect is probably Highmore. Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars on 4 and said, "The Spiderwick Chronicles is a terrific entertainment for the whole family, except those below a certain age who are likely to be scared out of their wits." What is that age? I don't know. They're your kids. But I do know the PG classification is insane, especially considering what happens right after a father says he loves his son. This is a PG-13 movie for sure. But what will cause nightmares for younger kids will delight older ones, since The Spiderwick Chronicles is a well-crafted family thriller that is truly scary and doesn't wimp out. The film was nominated by the Visual Effects Society in the category of Outstanding Animated Character in a Live-Action Feature Motion Picture, but it lost to The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, another film from Paramount Pictures, 19. The film was also nominated for 2 Saturn Awards for Best Fantasy Film and Freddie Highmore for Best Performance by a Younger Actor. Box office. In its opening weekend, the film grossed an estimated $19 million in 3,847 theaters in the United States and Canada, ranking number 2 behind Jumper at the box office. With the opening day's gross on Thursday included, the film grossed an estimated $24.3 million on its opening weekend. It has grossed $162.8 million worldwide. Home media. The film was released on DVD and Blu-ray on June 24, 2008 in the United States. It was re-released on DVD and Blu-ray on September 12, 2017 in the United States. Review. The Spiderwick Chronicles. The Spiderwick Chronicles, 96 minutes, PG, directed by Mark Waters, starring Freddie Highmore, Mary Louise Parker, Nick Nolte, David Strathairn, Joan Plowright. By an odd coincidence, there arrives this week an American horror movie for kids, The Spiderwick Chronicles, in which a mother takes her 3 children, one even called Simon, to a deserted Charles Addams-style house in New England that belonged to an old aunt. Things go bump in the night and during the day relating to mystical events 80 years back. A great-great-uncle, David Strathairn, an expert on necromancy, had written a magical book that wicked hobgoblins are trying to obtain from friendly fairies. It's a mild affair, rather like the Amityville Horror, reworked by a follower of J.K. Rowling, far too dependent on special effects, has a thunderous James Horner score, and is quite unsuitable for younger children. The Spiderwick Chronicles is a terrific entertainment for the whole family, except those below a certain age who are likely to be scared out of their wits. What is that age? I don't know. They're your kids. But I do know the PG classification is insane, especially considering what happens right after a father says he loves his son. This is a PG-13 movie for sure. But what will cause nightmares for younger kids will delight older ones, since The Spiderwick Chronicles is a well-crafted family thriller that is truly scary and doesn't wimp out. Based on a well-known series of books, the movie involves a soon-to-be-divorced mom and her 3 children who come to live in a creepy old mansion. This is Spiderwick, named after her grandfather Arthur Spiderwick, who disappeared under mysterious circumstances. The house itself is one of the stars of the movie, looking Victorian Gothic with countless nooks and crannies and shadows and scary sounds. Is it haunted? Nothing that comforting. It's inhabited. The mother is Helen Grace, Mary Louise Parker, who is battling with the rebellious Jared, Freddie Highmore, one of her twin sons. He doesn't like being away from his dad, is homesick, doesn't want anything to do with this dusty and spiderwebby old ruin that was left to his mom by her aunt. Jared's brainy twin Simon looks identical, no doubt because he is also played by Freddie Highmore, born in 1992, a gifted young actor best known for Finding Neverland, August Rush, and The Golden Compass. The twin sister is the plucky Mallory, Sarah Bolger, a fencer who seldom goes anywhere without her sword. Jared is the kind of kid who is always getting blamed for everything. When stuff starts disappearing, for example, he gets the rap. But he's brave, and when he finds a hidden dumbwaiter, he hauls himself up to a hidden room, his grandfather's study, left undisturbed after all these years. This room fairly reeks of forbidden secrets. Don't read further unless you already know, as the film's website makes abundantly clear that he finds a field guide to the unseen world left by his grandfather, David Strathairn, and that with its help and a seeing stone, Jared can see goblins, spirits, hobgoblins, ogres, trolls, and griffins, which themselves can take many shapes. Some of them are amusing, like Thimbletack, voice of Martin Short, some alarming, like Bogart, Short again, some helpful, like Hogsqueal, voice of Seth Rogen, but undependable. Anyway, Jared finally convinces his brother and finally his sister and mother that what he reports is real, but then the Graces are faced with dire threats. This is all done with a free mixture of light-hearted action, heavy action, and some dramatic scenes that are pretty heavy-going for younger imaginations. The movie is distinguished by its acting, not least by the great Joan Plowright as old Aunt Lucinda. Strathairn is completely credible as a spirit world investigator, although exactly where the sparkling points of light take him and what he does there is a little murky. They say, be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. I've often hailed back to the really creepy moments in Disney classics, like what happens to Dumbo and Bambi, and I've complained that recent family movies are too sanitized. This one, directed by Mark Waters, Freaky Friday, doesn't skip a beat before its truly horrific moments, so if you're under 8 or 9 years old, don't say you weren't warned. He doesn't want to go out. With his father, he wants to stay here with her. She wraps him in relief and forgiveness. These simple truths wash out the fear. Weeks later, the air is lighter. Aunt Lucinda returns with a hesitant but hopeful smile. Stepping into the house she once haunted, the house's echoes settle, sharing quite warmth again. It's then that Arthur Spiderwick appears thin as if spoken as if drawing from a dream. These sills have allowed him a brief visit because now the book is safe. He looks at his daughter Linda, and she, old and tired, looks back with tears. She doesn't want to stay old. A silent request passes between them, unspoken but powerful. The sills glow, and Lucinda becomes a child once more. Hand in hand with Arthur, she leaves with the magical beings, and he fades into light and dust. Another goodbye that feels sweet and necessary. The family watches with both wonder and a gentle ache. Life goes on softer now. The house feels more like home. The book is safe. The children have grown braver, closer, and the mother stronger, Chew. They've seen beyond the world others see and still found each other. Still come out whole. Everything that happened, every twist, every creature, every fear, it wound together into a lesson about trust, family, and the unseen magic in everyday things. The people you meet in these Spider Chronicles feel real from the start. Each one shaped by what they've lost, what they fear, and what they carry in their hearts. Jared moves through the old house with this mix of stubbornness and sorrow, like a boy whose world changed one day in New York when his home broke apart. His anger isn't fake, it's the ache of wanting something lost, especially when he glances at the empty space his father used to fill. He's the one who opens the secret room and carries the weight of every consequence, not because he wants attention, but because he needs to believe he still matters. As the story grows, you see Jared stepping up, not always heroically, but simply because he doesn't want anyone he loves to get hurt. Simon drifts beside his brother, quieter and more cautious, but softer and deeper in unexpected ways. He loves animals, keeps things in order, and tries to listen more than he speaks. He may look like he's following, but he's learning to act on what he cares about. When creatures scare him or a pet disappears, he doesn't freeze. He feels first, then chooses to help. The way he cares for things that can't stand up for themselves, showed something strong and kind inside him. Molly walks in front, Sword by her side, acting tougher than she feels. She's the oldest, expected to protect her brothers, but the new home gives her more to protect than she ever thought she'd have to. Her fencing isn't just for sport. It's a way to hold together what's falling apart in the family. As things get stranger, she learns that protecting means not just fighting, but listening when someone is scared. Her strength is real, even when she feels caught between being a child and being the one everyone depends on. Their mother, Helen, stands at the edge of her own collapse, and yet she doesn't fall. She's walked through pain and divorce, carrying the pieces for 3 children who don't always say thank you. Her care isn't smooth. It's quiet and rough, made of hesitant hugs and tired smiles, and when the world shifts underneath them, she finds something powerful in hope. She doesn't take the book seriously at first, but her love brings her back, making her brave in a way she didn't know she could. That makes her more than just a worried parent. She becomes the heart everyone looks to in the darkest moments. Then there are the creatures like Thimbletack, Grumbling, and Sharp who teach Jared that magic isn't polite. That little being always muttering and shifting hides more than annoyance. He hides centuries of fear and protectiveness. Watch him soften when Jared shows respect, and you see that, even in the smallest shape, choices matter. Hogquasqueal, the hobgoblin who eats birds and stinks of mischief, shows that even someone loyal to a bad boss can choose another path. He's funny and grows, and then he's brave, and in that change, you catch how real courage can come from unexpected places. The bond between the siblings grows through quiet acts. Jared's stubborn panic in the dark hall makes Simon step forward. Simon's steady whisper steadies Jared's quiver. Molly's blade protects, but her eyes worry for both. Their fights fade when they remember they're all in this together. The actor who plays both brothers is a miracle. You watch one face twist in anger, then shift into tender stillness without wondering if it's the same person. That wide-eyed frustration in Jared becomes soft shock in Simon, and you believe both entirely. When they stand back, ready to face invisible threat, you feel both separately and together. When their mother retreats in fear, her voice cracks, her arms waver, but then she steadies when she sees her children, uniting, and you can feel her finding strength in their trust. Watching her learning to face the impossible for their sake is touching, not forced. This house, strange and alive, becomes a character too. Old wood that cakes with memory, wallpaper that hides tunnels, every room whispering secrets. Doesn't just sit there, it presses on them. And as they change, the house seems to breathe with them, groaning in surprise, settling with relief. By the end, Jared isn't just angry or lost. He's wounded, scared, and brave. Simon isn't just quiet, he's brave in his own gentle way. Molly steps down from the wall and into the heart of the fight, not because she leads, but because she belongs. Helen stands not as a picture of perfect mothering, but as someone who chose to fight for her children when it counted most. It's easy to see why these characters stay with you. Their magic doesn't sing from fireworks. It hums in the small turns of their faces, in the glance over a shoulder, in the way they breathe together when the world is closing in. You remember Jared not for saving the day, but for turning back when Molly called his name. You remember Simon not for grand heroics, but for comforting a creature as strange as his fears. You remember Molly not for battles, but for pulling Jared out of his thick darkness. And Helen, you remember the quiet moment when she decided to stand up because the people she loved needed her. That's how this world and these people stay with you. They feel like someone you'd find in the mirror or someone you'd want to walk beside, believing that even under impossible odds, the most human choice can be the most magical one. Some of the best secrets begin when the cameras stop rolling and the real fairy dust falls on the people bringing the story to life. Imagine the director, Mark Waters, wrestling with the script for years. Starting around Dohazar, he kept reshaping and haunting effect scenes up until filming began in Sithar. It wasn't a rigid plan, it was more like chasing better ideas as they came, making sure each scene felt as magical as possible before they even hit the record button. Write this like a seamless story with no headings, divisions, or section markers. When they finally built the Spiderwick house, it wasn't just a refit of an old building. They created a whole exterior just for the shoot. That way they could tear into the walls, bring in goblins, open secret panels, things that an actual historic house wouldn't handle. They did the same with the interior. So when the twins discovered the hidden room that wasn't just a clever prop, it felt like a hidden life inside the smile on the set. Write this like a seamless story with no headings, divisions, or section markers. On set, actors like Sarah Boular trained intensely for her fencing scenes. 5 weeks of practice, 3 hours a day with a real Olympic fencing coach. So when she raised her sword, every swing carried something real. Then there's Freddie Highmore playing both Jared and Simon, flipping between emotions, accents, and personalities. He wasn't copying, he was doubling emotionally. And they filmed scenes with a body double or standing, making sure the camera caught brothers where only one actor stood. Write this like a seamless story with no headings, divisions, or section markers. On a different side of the magic, there were the creature builders, Tippett Studio and ILM teaming up to make what looked like folklore walking. They didn't want cute or cartoon, they wanted real-life breathing. In creatures, they studied real animals, lemurs for Thimbletack, gorillas, and boars for Mulgarat. They didn't just draw monsters, they gave them believable weight and movement. Write this like a seamless story with no headings, divisions, or section markers, creating that meant hundreds of artists poured over every detail. ILM handled hundreds of shots, over 200 that included character animation and more for sprites and backgrounds. They built digital doubles of the house, layered characters into walls, and even created tools so animators could keep faces consistent. One of those tools was called Fess, an upgrade the team used so that Thimbletack could go from mischievous to furious to confused in just a few moments and look right every time. Write this like a seamless story with no headings, divisions, or section markers. On the Tippett side, there were whole teams mapping the goblins' movement. They sculpted, animated, painted, and layered goblins in groups that felt like they existed just behind the wallpaper. Some scenes saw Tippett and ILM share characters, passing shells and animation back and forth, even syncing colors across separate pipelines, so that when Mulgarat picked up a creature, it stayed part of one world. That was the kind of detail most of us never notice. But once, it stays with you. Write this like a seamless story with no headings, divisions, or section markers. The music was its own quite wonder. James Hoare, a composer known for moving orchestras to tears, wrote the score here too. He recorded with the Hollywood Symphony Orchestra in a studio in Los Angeles, giving life to soft magic, creeping danger, and warm family moments. He even added an original version of London Bridge is Falling Down, sung by a child. Something that never made it on the official soundtrack, but it lingers in the film's heartbeats. Write this like a seamless story with no headings, divisions, or section markers. Then there are little secrets in plain sight. Details that feel alive only when you remember them later. The voice of the goblin leader Red Cap was done by Ron Perlman, but he wasn't even credited. Thimbletack, the grumpy house brownie, has a face quietly modeled on the actor Laurence Olivier. That's especially funny when you realize Olivier's wife plays Aunt Lucinda. It's like a nod hidden in plain sight, a touch featherlight. Write this like a seamless story with no headings, divisions, or section markers. The DVD and BUI editions of the film hide small treasures. You can flip through the field guide as if it were in your hands. Flip pages, explore creatures, peek behind the digital now. Curtain, there's a clip where the crew uses cardboard cutouts of goblins to guide the actors' reactions before the CGI replaces them. You see Holly Black, one of the book's authors, stepping on set and watching her painted creatures run through real hallways. It's a reminder that every magical thing you read C started somewhere messy, real, and human. Write this like a seamless story. With no headings, divisions, or section markers, The Final Cut, it became the first non-rated live-action film under X or $1 million to be released in IMAX. And that's a neat milestone. Some fans still talk about seeing it large and feeling like magic caught in the air. Someone once said how they loved seeing Freddie Highmore double A to Brothers, and they didn't even know Satrajan was in it until later. That, feeling that something under the surface surprised them, is the kind of horse that makes movies stick. Write this like a seamless story with no headings, divisions, or section markers, and all of these small stories of actors training insanely hard with swords, animators building tools to give creatures real emotion, composers pulling fear and wonder out of strings, authors slipping behind cameras, all of that weaves together behind the scenes to make what you see feel lived, not staged. Those secrets are the ones that stay in your mind long after the credits roll. Not because they were finished, but because they belonged to a process that believed in the whisper of magic. And whoever created that hoped you'd feel it too. The story gathers momentum quietly, right after the twins open the field guide. And it's here that the heart of the film really begins to beat. What seems like a simple book quickly turns into a door to something much bigger and far more dangerous. The Grace family, already shaken by recent move and the absence of their father, suddenly finds themselves at the center of a growing storm. Magic is no longer a story, it's a threat. And that's what makes this shift so powerful. The film isn't just about discovering a new world. It's about what that world reveals about each character. When the protective circle around the house breaks and the goblins attack, it's not just a plot point. It's a mirror of the family's fragile state. They're already emotionally exposed, unsure of one another, still hurting from change. So when their physical space becomes unsafe, that fear feels deeper. It isn't about monsters at the door. It's about a family that's been pulled apart and has to learn to come back together under pressure. One of the most emotional moments comes when Jared calls his dad and asks him to come. It's clear he's still holding on to the hope that his father might show up, might fix everything. But when he realizes his dad won't be there, the disappointment hits hard. That phone call is quite but heavy. It says more about Jared's pain than any angry outburst ever could. He wants someone to choose him, and once again he feels forgotten. Later, when the creature Mulgarath disguises himself as Jared's dad, the emotional weight of that earlier moment comes crashing back. Jared sees someone who looks like the person he still loves deep down, and for a second, he wants to believe it's really him, but it's not. And when Jared has to hurt that figure to protect his late family, it's not just bravery, it's heartbreak. That choice marks a turning point, not only in the story, but in Jared's character. He stops waiting to be rescued and starts acting on what matters to him now. Even in the midst of fear, there's creativity and play. The children use tomato sauce and salt to fight back against goblins. These everyday items become tools of defense. And that twist adds a playful layer to the danger. It shows that courage doesn't always look like swords and shields. Sometimes it's grabbing whatever you can find in a kitchen and standing your ground. Another moment that stands out is when the children's mother finally sees the magical creatures for herself. Up until that point, she hasn't believed any of their stories. But when the truth is literally right in front of her, something shifts. Her fear is real, but so is her love for her kids. And that love pushes her to step into the fight beside them. It's more than just a plot detail. It's a message. Belief isn't always about seeing something with your eyes. Sometimes it's about choosing to trust the people you love. The field guide itself, the one Arthur Spider created, is another character in its own way. It's not just a book of creatures. It's a symbol of knowledge, curiosity, and danger. The fact that so many want to destroy it or control it speaks to how powerful information can be for the kids. It becomes both a burden and a lifeline. And in the end, it's not just about keeping it safe. It's about understanding when to protect something and when to let it go. When Arthur, Spider, finally returns just for a brief moment, it's a gentle reminder of everything that was lost. His daughter, Lucinda, spent her whole life waiting for him, and their reunion is bittersweet. She's old, fragile, and yet still filled with the Sam longing she had as a child when the magical creatures turn her young again and she leaves with her father. It's not a neat ending. It's a quite strange kind of piece. The film doesn't say everything. We'll be okay. It just says that sometimes healing looks different than we expect. Throughout the film, one of the strongest themes is about family, not just the idea of being related, but what it means to actually be there for each other. Jared's journey is filled with anger, but it's never empty. That anger is rooted in pain, in feeling unseen, in wishing things could go back to the way they were. Simon is quieter, more patient, but his strength grows as he sees what Jared is carrying. Molly learns to let down her guard and step into her role, not just as a sister, but as a protector and equal. Their mother goes from a stressed, unsure single parent to someone willing to face danger hand in hand with her children. These emotional changes aren't forced. They come out of real moments. They build slowly, like trust being rebuilt one scene at a time. And that's what gives the film its lasting power. The creatures and spells are interesting, but it's the family, their growth, their choices, their love that makes the story feel true. Even these setting helps carry these themes. The house isn't just a location. It's a place filled with hidden doors, dusty corners, and locked-up history. It holds secrets and waits for someone to listen as the family explores it. They aren't just finding monsters, they're uncovering truths about themselves. That kind of storytelling where space and emotion are tied together helps everything feel more real. And through it all, the film never tries to be louder than it needs to be. It doesn't rush its lessons. It lets moments breathe. It trusts that viewers will notice the small shifts. A glance between siblings, a mother's quiet choice to believe, a boy stepping out of his own pain to protect someone else. By the end, when the danger has passed and the family gathers again, the world feels a little more open. They face things no one else would believe, but more importantly, they face their own broken pieces and chosen to build something stronger. That's what makes these stories stay with you. It's not just about what they fought. It's about how they came back to each other. And sometimes that's the most magical thing of all thought. The making of the Spiderwick Chronicles was a journey filled with creativity and care where every choice helped bring the magical world from page to screen in a way that felt alive and real. The filmmakers knew early on that this story wasn't just about special effects or fantasy creatures. It was about creating a world where the ordinary and the magical lived side by side, and the audience could feel the tension between them. The way the camera moved and the sounds filled the space were both carefully designed to support that feeling, weaving together a rich experience that didn't just show the story, but made viewers live it. The cinematography, led by Caleb Decanel, played a huge role in shaping the film's atmosphere. Denell's approach was to capture the house almost like a character itself, sometimes warm and inviting, sometimes shadowed and mysterious. He used natural light to give a softness to the family moments, while more dramatic lighting created contrast during scenes with the goblins and magical creatures. The house's creaky floors and old wooden stairs became part of the visual language. Their textures captured in close-up shots that made the space feel lived in and layered with history. This attention to detail gave the film a grounded feel even while it explored fantasy. The camera often lingered just a bit longer on empty rooms or half-open doors, inviting curiosity and sometimes unease, as if the walls themselves were watching. Sound was another powerful tool. The sound team worked hard to balance the everyday noises, footsteps, whispers, doors closing with the other, worldly sounds of creatures and magic. The goblins didn't just grunt or growl. Their voices had a roughness that felt organic, almost animal-like. Foley artists recreated these sounds with clever tricks, rubbing stones together, stretching rubber bands, or snapping twigs in ways that brought these creatures to life without losing their airy edge. Even the silence in some scenes became meaningful, allowing tension to build naturally without overwhelming the senses. When the field guide's pages rustled, it wasn't just paper. It was the sound of secrets being revealed. One memorable moment from the crew involved how the team captured the movements of the house brownie Thimbletack. To make his tiny size believable, they used a mix of puppetry and digital effects. On set, a puppet version was manipulated in real time to interact with actors, helping them react naturally. Later, animators blended those movements with CGI to add expressions and subtle details. The collaboration between practical effects and digital technology was seamless, creating a creature that felt real without ever seeming out of place. Animators studied small animals closely, watching their motions to help Thimbletack's movements feel natural and full of personality. Behind the scenes, the team often faced challenges when blending live action with CGI to film. Scenes where Freddie Highmore played both Jared and Simon in the Sam frame. They used motion control cameras, machines that repeat the exact same camera movement multiple times to capture different takes. This allowed the editors to layer shots and make it look like two brothers were interacting, even though only one actor was on set at a time. Actors had to imagine where their other self was during filming, which was no small task. Freddie often described it as talking to thin air, relying on timing and imagination to make the interactions feel real. It's a testament to both the technology and the actors' skill that those moments feel so natural on screen. Lighting was also carefully controlled during these dual scenes. Because the shots were layered, the lighting had to match perfectly from take to take. Even small differences could break the illusion. This meant the crew worked closely with the director and cinematographer to plan every angle and light source, sometimes spending hours adjusting setups before a single take. The precision behind these scenes contrasted with the energetic chaos of the story itself, showing how much careful planning went into creating moments that felt spontaneous and alive. The film's visual effects were another layer of magic crafted by top studios like Industrial Lighter Magic and Tippett Studio. They built detailed digital models of the creatures, the field guide, and parts of the house, then layered those into live-action footage. Each frame was carefully painted and adjusted to keep the look consistent, avoiding anything that would pull the viewer out of the story. For example, when the goblins move through the house, the shadows they cast and the way light bounces off their skin were painstakingly designed to match the real environment. These small touches made the fantasy world feel integrated rather than pasted on. One of the crew's favorite challenges was creating the magical atmosphere around the field guide itself. The book needed to feel ancient and mysterious, almost alive. The art department designed the book with weathered pages and intricate illustrations that looked as though they had been hand-drawn hundreds of years ago. When it opened on screen, the pages seemed to flutter with their own energy, enhanced by subtle digital effects like glowing edges and gentle movements. The sound designers added soft whispers and faint rustling that suggested something more than paper was turning. Together, these effects made the guide not just a prop, but a key character. Another interesting choice involved the goblin leader Bolger. The filmmakers decided not to make him just a typical villain. His voice, provided by a skilled actor, was layered with sounds that made him feel both monstrous and strangely human. Makeup and prosthetics were combined with CGI to bring out his size and strength without losing expression. This balance allowed Mulgret to be terrifying, but also relatable, which added complexity to the stories. Conflict. Instead of a simple bad guy, he feels like a force with his own goals and pain, making these stakes more engaging. The soundtrack, composed by James Nair, tied all these elements together. The music shifts from playful to tense with ease, carrying the emotions of each scene. The orchestral arrangements use light, airy instruments to capture wonder and heavier tones for danger. The sound of children's voices singing an old nursery rhyme adds a haunting layer, connecting the fantasy world to familiar childhood memories. The music helps guide the audience's feelings without ever overpowering the story, letting moments breathe. Actors shared stories about how these technical elements affected their performances. For example, Sarah Boular talked about how wearing fencing gear every day changed her physically and mentally, helping her get into the character of Malai, who's strong and determined. Freddie Highmore described how reacting to puppets or empty spaces pushed him to focus harder on emotions since he couldn't rely on physical cues from co-stars in some scenes. These experiences show how technical and creative decisions are intertwined with the actor's craft. Even simple things, like costume design, contributed to storytelling. The Grace children's clothes start off looking worn and mismatched, reflecting their unsettled life. As the story progresses, subtle changes in their appearance show growth and confidence. The colors, textures, and details were carefully chosen to support character development without being obvious. This attention to small details helped make the characters feel real and relatable. Looking back, the filmmakers often speak about how they tried to keep the spirit of the original books alive while taking advantage of what film can do uniquely. They aimed for a mix of wonder, danger, and family warmth, making sure every technical choice served the story emotionally. This meant sometimes rethinking scenes or effects until they felt right. The process was one of discovery and adjustment, proving that even in a big production, careful choices can create a world that invites viewers in and holds them there. As the story unfolds, the theme of belief emerges gently but powerfully. At first, the mother doesn't believe in magic or these strange things her children talk about, and this skepticism feels very natural. But the film shows that belief isn't just about accepting fairy tales. It's about trust and seeing things through the eyes of those you love. When she finally opens her heart to what her children have experienced, it's a turning point not only for the plot, but for how the family begins to heal. This shift from doubt to belief is a reminder that sometimes the hardest thing is to accept what we can't immediately understand, especially when it challenges what we thought was true. The field guide itself, with its worn pages and hidden secrets, stands as a symbol of knowledge and responsibility. It's not just a magical book. It represents the power that comes with learning about the world around us, including its dangers. The guides, protection, spells, and warnings remind viewers that some knowledge isn't meant to be taken lightly. The family struggle to keep the book safe from the wrong hands reflects a deeper message about the importance of protecting what is valuable and the consequences when that protection fails. It also hints at the idea that the past, with all its mysteries, is never truly gone, but can come back to shape the present. Creatures like goblins, brownies, and sills are not just fantastical beings, but carry symbolic weight as well. Goblins, with their sneaky and destructive nature, can be seen as representations of greed and chaos threatening the balance of the natural world and family harmony. The house brownie, Thimbletack, small and loyal, symbolize the idea that help and protection can come from the most unexpected places. His cautious but brave nature reminds viewers that even the smallest beings have strength. Meanwhile, the sylphs, graceful and otherworldly, bring a sense of calm and healing, especially during the moments when the story touches on loss and reconciliation. These creatures enrich the narrative by embodying qualities that the characters themselves must discover within. Loss and grief are subtle but important themes woven through the film. The family is coping with the absence of the father, and that whole affects how each character acts and grows. Jared's anger and distrust, Simon's quiet endurance, and Mole's guarded strength all stem from the pain of change and separation. The film doesn't rush past these feelings, but allows them to linger, showing how difficult it can be to move forward when parts of us feel broken. The moments when characters come to terms with what's gone, like the brief return of Arthur Spiderwick or Lose This Release, offer a bittersweet kind of hope. It's not a promise of perfect endings, but a recognition that healing takes many forms. The house itself is more than just a setting. It is a symbol of home and the hidden layers within family life. Its old walls hold memories, secrets, and a sense of time passing. Doors that open to secret rooms or lead to other worlds reflect how the family's life is full of unknown challenges and how discovery is both thrilling and frightening. The house's protective circle created long ago speaks to the idea that families build boundaries to keep themselves safe, but those boundaries can also trap them if they are too rigid or broken. When the circle breaks, it mirrors the family's own vulnerabilities, reminding viewers that safety is fragile and must be rebuilt through trust and courage. Another theme that quietly runs through the story is the balance between childhood innocence and growing up. The Grace children are caught between the wonder of discovering magical creatures and the harsh realities of danger and responsibility. Their journey pushes them to mature, to make tough choices, and to look beyond themselves. Yet the film doesn't ask them to give up their childlike sense of wonder. Instead, it suggests that believing in magic and embracing responsibility can lie side by side. This tension between holding on and letting go adds a richness to the character's growth. Trust is also a key idea that connects many moments. The children must learn to trust each other's differences and strengths, and their mother must learn to trust them in. Mulgarat, the antagonist, is the opposite of this. He thrives on deception and betrayal, showing how broken trust can lead to destruction. The film's resolution, where the family comes together to protect what matters, underlines the power of trust as a force that can heal and defend. Symbols like the key to the secret door, the glowing pages of the field guide, or the enchanted salt the children use against goblins may seem like simple fantasy props, but they hold deeper meaning. Ducky stands for access to hidden knowledge and the courage to face what's unknown. The glowing pages suggest that knowledge has a life of its own, something that can guide but also warn. The salt, a common household item, transformed into a magical weapon, symbolize the idea that ordinary things and people can have extraordinary power when used with intention and courage. Overall, these themes and symbols are not separate from the story, but woven through every scene, shaping how the characters interact and how the plot unfolds. They invite viewers not just to watch an adventure, but to reflect on ideas like family, belief, trust, loss, and growth. The movie's magic isn't just about creatures and spells, it's about the feelings and choices that make us human. By blending fantasy with these deeper layers, the Spider Chronicles offers more than just excitement. It gives a story that resonates quietly long after the screen goes dark. The making of the Spiderwick Chronicles was shaped not only by its story, but also by the chemistry between the cast and the dedication of the crew, all of which came together to create something special on screen. The core of the film revolves around the Grace children, and the actors who played them brought a natural energy and connection that made their relationships believable and heartfelt. Freddie Highmore, who took on the challenge of playing twins Jared and Bud Simon, showed remarkable skill in differentiating the two characters with subtle changes in posture, voice, and expression. His ability to switch seamlessly between the impatient, hot-headed Jared and the calm, thoughtful Simon added depth to the siblings' dynamic. On set, he often spoke about how playing to roles felt like having to conversations at once, especially during scenes where the twins interacted. The use of motion control cameras meant he had to imagine the other characters' lines and timing, which required focus and imagination. His commitment made those moments feel real rather than mechanical. Sarah Boular, playing Malai, brought a fierce but caring presence that balanced the boys' personalities. She shared in interviews how she embraced Malai's tomboyish spirit and determination, especially during the action scenes where she trained in fencing. The physical preparation helped her inhabit the character fully, making Mole's bravery feel earned and authentic. On set, Bolger developed a close bond with Highmore and the rest of the young cast, which translated into natural sibling chemistry on screen. Their playful, teasing and support for each other behind the scenes added warmth to the family dynamic portrayed in the film. Mary Louise Parker, who played the children's mother, Helen Grace, described how she approached her role with a mix of tenderness and strength. She understood Helen's struggles as a single mother trying to hold her family together, especially in the face of unbelievable events. Parker often mentioned that the hardest part was showing Helen's vulnerability without making her seem weak. Instead, she focused on the character's resilience and love, which became a grounding force in the story. She also admired how the young actors carried so much of the emotional weight, and she made sure to support them during intense scenes, creating a caring atmosphere on set. Behind the camera, director Mark Waters guided the cast with a clear vision of balancing fantasy and family drama. Waters often encouraged improvisation, letting the actors explore their characters in moments between scripted lines. This gave the performances a natural feel and helped scenes flow more smoothly. Waters also shared that one of his goals was to make the magical creatures feel believable and relatable rather than just scary or funny. He worked closely with the visual effects team and puppeteers to make sure the actors could react genuinely to creatures that weren't physically present during filming. Many crew members recalled how the atmosphere on set was both fun and focused. Working with young actors comes with challenges, but the entire team supported them with patience and encouragement. The puppeteers who brought characters like Thimble Tag the Brownie to life often stayed close during filming to help actors respond to their tiny co-stars' movements. This collaboration created moments where the line between actor and puppet blurred, making scenes more immersive. Anecdotes from the set highlight the playful side of the production. For example, Freddie Highmore was known for lightening tense days with jokes and quick impressions, helping the cast and crew stay relaxed despite the long hours. Sarah Bolger shared a story about how she accidentally knocked over a prop goblin during a serious scene, leading to laughter that broke the tension and reminded everyone of the fun in making the movie. These moments built a sense of camaraderie that viewers can feel in the natural interactions between characters. Audience reactions to the Spiderwick Chronicles were generally positive, especially from families and fans of the books. Many appreciated how the film captured the spirit of the original stories while adding cinematic excitement. Viewers praised the yet believable performances of the young cast and the balance of adventure and heart. The visual effects, while ambitious for the time, were also recognized for bringing the creatures to life without overwhelming the story. Parents often noted that the film's themes of family, trust, and courage resonated with children in a meaningful way, making it more than just a fantasy movie. Critics, on the other hand, had mixed but thoughtful responses. Some admired the film's charm and visual imagination, highlighting the strong performances and solid direction. Others felt that the plot occasionally followed familiar fantasy tropes, or that some of the pacing could have been tighter. However, even critics who raised these points often acknowledged the film's warmth and its appeal to its target audience. The performances of the cast were frequently singled out as a highlight, with particular praise for Freddie Highmore's ability to carry two distinct roles. The movie also found a lasting place among viewers who returned to it years later, discovering new layers of enjoyment in the family dynamics and magical details. Fans often pointed to the subtle humor in the way the film respected the intelligence of its young audience. This combination of respect and entertainment helped the Spiderwick Chronicles stand out in the crowded field of fantasy films aimed at children and families. Behind the scenes, the filmmakers took pride in creating a story that wasn't just about special effects, but about characters and emotions that feel real. The dedication of the cast and crew to this goal showed in every frame, whether it was the careful way actors built their characters, the thoughtful direction guiding the story's stone, or the teamwork. Involved in blending practical and digital effects, everyone worked together to make a film that feels alive. In interviews years later, many of the cast members spoke fondly of their time working on the movie. They recall the challenges and the fun, but above all, they remembered the friendships formed and the shared excitement of bringing a beloved story to life. This sense of joy and respect for the material is something that shines through in the final product, inviting viewers into a world where family and fantasy meet in a way that feels genuine and heartfelt. Ultimately, the Spiderwick Chronicles succeeded not only because of its story or effects, but because of the people behind it. Actors who cared deeply about their roles, a director who nurtured their performances, and a crew who built a world that felt both magical and believable. This creative journey made the film more than just a fantasy adventure. It became a story about connection, both on screen and off. The Spiderwick Chronicles continues to hold a quiet but meaningful place in the world of fantasy films and family storytelling. When it first came out, the movie offered something that wasn't always common, a blend of thrilling adventure and heartfelt family drama wrapped in a magical world. This balance helped it stand out from other films in the genre, creating an experience that spoke to both children and adults. Its influence can be seen in how it encouraged filmmakers to approach fantasy stories with more emotional depth and character focus rather than relying solely on spectacle. The movie arrived at a time when fantasy films, aimed at younger audiences, were becoming increasingly popular, but not all managed to capture the right mix of wonder and realism. The Spiderwick Chronicles showed that fantasy could be both exciting and grounded, that creatures and magic could coexist with real emotions and everyday struggles. This approach helped pave the way for future films that sought to blend the magical with the personal, showing that audiences crave stories where they can see themselves in the characters even as they explore fantastic worlds. Its place in the genre is significant because it resisted the temptation to oversimplify its characters or story. The Grace family's journey wasn't just about defeating evil creatures, but about growing closer, facing fears, and learning to trust one another. This layered storytelling made the film more memorable and meaningful, influencing other creators who realized that fantasy could carry important themes without losing its sense of fun. In a way, the Spider Chronicles contributed to a shift in family fantasy films, encouraging more emotional honesty alongside magical adventure. Beyond its influence on cinema, the film found a special spot in pop culture, especially among fans of the original books. The movie introduced the world of Spiderwick to a wider audience, inspiring interest in these series and related fantasy works. It sparked conversations about the power of imagination and the importance of family, themes that resonate across generations. For many viewers, the film became a gateway into fantasy worlds, encouraging them to read, create, and dream. This kind of cultural impact is often subtle but long-lasting, planting seeds that grow in unexpected ways. Over time, the Spiderwick Chronicles has also been recognized for its achievements in visual effects and creature design. While the technology has advanced since DHZR art, the film's effects still hold up because of their thoughtful integration with live action and practical elements. This blend created a believable, magical environment that didn't overwhelm the story but enriched it. The creatures from goblins to brownies became iconic examples of how fantasy characters can be both imaginative and relatable. This legacy in creature creation continues to inspire artists and filmmakers exploring similar worlds. The film's soundtrack and overall mood have also left a mark, with many fans recalling the haunting yet hopeful music that carries the story's emotions. These elements contribute to the film's lasting appeal, reminding viewers that great storytelling involves more than just visuals. It's about atmosphere, tone, and feeling. The way these components come together in these Spiderwick Chronicles has influenced how future fantasy films consider the role of sound and music in building immersive worlds. Looking at its cultural significance, the movie touches on universal themes: family, belief, courage, and the tension between childhood Enoch. These themes resonate beyond the fantasy setting, connecting the film to larger conversations about what it means to face change and uncertainty. In a world where family structures and childhood experiences vary widely, the Spider Chronicles offers a story about finding strength in connection and trusting those closest to us. This relevance keeps the film meaningful as new generations discover it. The legacy also lives in the community that is formed around the story. Fans continue to celebrate the characters and the world, sharing fan art, discussions, and memories. This ongoing engagement showed how the film has become more than just entertainment. It's a part of people's lives, inspiring creativity and friendship. The movie's influence extends beyond the screen, shaping how people imagine and relate to fantasy stories. In the years following its release, the film's place in the genre has been appreciated not only by audiences, but by filmmakers and critics who see it as an example of thoughtful storytelling within fantasy. It stands as a reminder that films can combine spectacle with heart, that magic works best when it is tied to real emotions. This idea has influenced how studios approach family-oriented fantasy, encouraging more stories that are both visually captivating and emotionally rich. The Spiderwick Chronicles also serves as a milestone in how adaptations of beloved books can succeed by respecting the source material while embracing the unique possibilities of film. The filmmaker's commitment to preserving the story spirit without being bound by every detail showed a careful balance of loyalty and creativity. This approach has informed later adaptations, proving that honoring the heart of a story is as important as the visual effects or plot twists. Looking back, the film's legacy is not measured only by box office numbers or awards, but by the way it has quietly influenced storytelling and touched viewers. It reminds us that even stories about magical creatures and enchanted books are really about people, about their fears, hopes, and the ties that bind them. This lasting message is why The Spiderwick Chronicles remains a beloved film, one that continues to invite audiences into a world where magic is real because the feelings behind it are true. In the end, the film's influence on cinema and culture comes from its ability to blend fantasy with the everyday, creating a space where imagination and heart meet. This blend has helped shape the genre and inspired audiences to look beyond what they see on screen, encouraging them to believe in the magic within their own lives. It's a legacy that lives on quietly but powerfully, much like the world hidden just beyond the Spiderwick estate's doors. These Spiderwick Chronicles. The connection between the cast members was evident, creating an atmosphere that translated directly to the screen and made the story feel genuine and warm. The heart of the movie lies in the Grace family, three siblings navigating a strange new world filled with magic and danger. And the actors who played them worked hard to bring this family to life, not just as characters, but as real people with deep bonds. Freddie Highmore, who portrayed both Jared and Simon, showed impressive skill in differentiating the two brothers, capturing Jared's fiery, rebellious spirit and Simon's quieter, more thoughtful nature. This dual role could have felt mechanical or forced, but thanks to Highmore's natural ease and commitment, the interactions between the twins felt believable and lively. Off-camera, Freddie was known for his playful, sense of humor, which helped him build strong relationships with his co-stars, making the on-screen sibling rivalry and affection feel all the more authentic. Sarah Boular, who played Malai, added another layer to this family dynamic with her fierce determination and protective attitude. Her chemistry with Freddie was built not just through rehearsed scenes, but through the moments shared between takes. Whether joking around, practicing fencing moves, or encouraging each other during challenging shoots, this camaraderie helped create the feeling of real siblings working together, facing fears, and growing stronger as a team. In interviews, Bolger often reflected on how the cast became like a second family during filming, supporting one another. Through long days and demanding scenes, her dedication to portraying Malé's bravery and vulnerability made the character resonate with audiences and added depth to the sibling trio story. Louise Parker, cast as the mother, Helen Grace, brought a grounded warmth to the family, balancing the children's youthful energy with the seriousness of a parent trying to hold everything together. Her interactions with the younger cast were marked by kindness and professionalism, often helping them navigate emotionally intense moments. Parker spoke in interviews about the importance of trust on set, especially when working with young actors, and how she aimed to create a safe environment where they could explore their characters fully. This approach allowed the family struggles and joys to come through in a way that felt sincere, making the mother's concern and love for her children deeply believable. The chemistry extended beyond the core family, reaching the supporting cast as the villainous Mulgaraj, played by Nick Nolte, brought a dark intensity that contrasted with the family's warmth, and his scenes with the children were charged with tension that felt real, rather than staged. Nolte, a veteran actor, shared that he enjoyed working with the young cast, often offering advice and encouragement during tricky scenes. His presence helped raise the stakes of the story, grounding the fantasy elements in a sense of real danger. On set, Noll's professionalism and experience created a space where the younger actors felt challenged but supported, which improved the quality of their performances. Behind the scenes, the director Mark Waters fostered a collaborative environment that encouraged spontaneity and connection. Waters often allowed the actors to improvise, especially during quieter moments, to capture natural reactions and emotions. This freedom helped create scenes that felt less scripted and more like real family interactions. Crew members remembered how Waters would sometimes call for multiple takes just to let the actors play off one another in different ways, knowing that this would give editors options to find the most authentic performances. This method was especially important in a film where the emotional core needed to balance the magical action. These special effects team also contributed to the dynamic by involving the actors closely in the creation of the magical creatures. Puppeteers who operated characters like Thimble-Tag the Brownie worked on set alongside the actors, helping them respond to the creature's movements and personality. This collaboration made scenes involving these fantastical characters feel more alive. Actors often described how it was easier to react genuinely when they could see and interact with a physical puppet rather than imagining CGI elements later. These moments brought a sense of playfulness to the set, creating a lively atmosphere. Despite the demanding production schedule, several stories from the set revealed the lighthearted moments that helped build this strong team spirit. For instance, during breaks in filming, Freddie Highmore was known for his impressions and jokes that helped relieve tension. Sarah Boular and Freddie would sometimes compete in friendly fencing matches, practicing moves they used in the film, which kept the energy high and forged bonds beyond just acting. Louise Parker recalled a day when a prop goblin unexpectedly fell during a serious scene, causing the cast and crew to burst out laughing, breaking the tension and reminding everyone to enjoy the process. These moments of laughter and connection behind the scenes contributed to a relaxed and supportive environment which showed in the performances. As the film moved toward release, the cast shared their excitement about how audiences might react to the story and the magical world they had helped bring to life. Early screenings revealed that many viewers, especially families and fans of the original book series, responded positively to the genuine relationships portrayed on screen. The chemistry between the siblings was frequently praised for making the fantasy elements feel grounded and relatable. Viewers connected not only with the magical adventure, but also with the emotional journey of a family coming together in difficult times. This response reflected the success of the cast's work in creating believable characters rather than simply actors playing parts. Critics' reception of the movie highlighted these strengths as well. Many noted that the young actors delivered performances that elevated the film beyond typical children's fantasy fare. Freddie Highmore's portrayal of the twins was often singled out for praise, with reviewers appreciating the nuanced differences he brought to each character. Bolger's Malai was recognized for adding complexity and courage, while Marlouise Parker's role as the mother added emotional depth. The chemistry between the main cast was seen as one of the film's key assets, helping it connect with audiences on personal level, even as it told a magical story. Over time, the movie has maintained a loyal fan base, with many viewers revisiting it and sharing their favorite moments online or through fan communities. The warmth of the family relationships, combined with the thrilling fantasy elements, continues to resonate, making the film a beloved choice for family viewing. Cast interviews years later often reflect on how those early bonds formed on set have lasted beyond filming, with actors remembering the shared excitement and challenges of making the movie. These lasting friendships speak to the genuine connections that fueled their performances and contributed to the film's enduring appeal. In the end, the success of the Spiderwick Chronicles owes much to the way the cast's chemistry brought the story to life. Their natural interactions, supported by a director who valued emotional truth and a crew that created a playful yet professional set, allowed the movie to feel real and engaging. The behind-the-scenes stories reveal a production filled with laughter, hard work, and mutual respect, which shines through in the finished film. Audience reactions, both at the time of release and years later, show how these authentic performances helped make the magical world of Spiderwick one that viewers could believe in and care about deeply. When the Spider Chronicles hit theaters in Doha's art, it stepped into a crowded field of fantasy films, but managed to carve out a unique space that has left a subtle yet enduring impact on both cinema and pop culture. Its legacy is woven into how family yet centered fantasy stories have evolved in the years since, blending magical worlds with relatable, heartfelt characters in a way that felt fresh at the time and continues to influence storytellers today. The film arrived during a moment when audiences were hungry for fantasy adventures that were not just about spectacle, but about genuine emotional connection, and it delivered on that balance, setting a tone for future works in the genre. One of the ways the movie made its mark was by showing that fantasy for younger viewers could be more than just an escape into a magical world. It could also be a story about family, trust, and courage. This focus on emotional depth within a fantasy framework helped shift expectations for similar films, encouraging creators to develop characters who felt real and whose personal journeys mattered as much as the mythical creatures and thrilling action. By centering the story on the Gray siblings and their relationship with their mother, the film made the magic serve the narrative instead of overshadowing it. This approach influenced later family-oriented fantasy films and series where emotional stakes are carefully balanced with adventurous elements. In the years following its release, the Spiderwick Chronicles quietly became a reference point for filmmakers and writers exploring fantasy that bridges the gap between childhood wonder and more mature themes. It demonstrated that films could respect the intelligence of younger audiences without talking down to them, and that stories involving magical creatures could carry messages about growing up, facing fears, and sticking together through tough times. This legacy of mixing fantasy with heartfelt storytelling can be seen echoed in various works that followed, from TV shows to movies, where the family unit often plays a central role in the unfolding adventure. The movie's impact extends beyond just its storytelling style. Its visual effects, though created over a decade ago, were praised for their thoughtful blend of practical puppetry and digital animation. This mix helped the fantasy creatures feel tangible and real, inviting audiences to believe in their existence without overwhelming the story. These effects encouraged filmmakers to consider how practical and digital techniques could be combined to serve the narrative more effectively. As technology has advanced, many have looked back at films like the Spiderwick Chronicles for inspiration on how to balance visual spectacle with emotional storytelling. Though it did not dominate award seasons, the film earned recognition for its craft, particularly in areas like production design, costume, and visual effects. These achievements marked important milestones for fantasy films aimed at families, showing that smaller budget productions could deliver quality and detail that rivaled larger blockbusters. The design of the magical world, from the detailed Spiderwick estate to the unique look of each creature, set a standard for creating immersive fantasy environments that feel lived in and believable. This attention to detail has inspired other filmmakers seeking to build rich fantasy worlds without relying solely on CGI. Over time, the Spiderwick Chronicles has maintained a dedicated fan base, partly thanks to the ongoing popularity of the original book series and partly because of the movie's own merits. Fans appreciate how the film respects the spirit of the books while offering a cinematic experience that stands on its own. This dual appeal has kept the story alive in the public imagination, encouraging discussions, fan creations, and renewed interest whenever the film is rewatched or revisited. The movie's role as a bridge between literature and film has become an example of how adaptations can succeed by balancing fidelity with creative freedom. In the broader cultural context, the movie touched on themes that remain relevant today: family unity in times of uncertainty, the importance of believing in things beyond the obvious, and the courage it takes to face unknown dangers. These ideas resonate in a world where audiences seek stories that offer both hope and realism, even within fantastical settings. This thematic relevance has helped the film endure, allowing new generations to discover and connect with its messages long after its initial release. The legacy of the Spiderwick Chronicles also includes its impact on the careers of its young cast, many of whom went on to continue working in film and television, carrying forward the experience and skills gained during production. Their performances demonstrated that young actors could handle complex roles in fantasy films, paving the way for more casting directors to trust youthful talent with emotionally demanding. For younger viewers, could be more than just an escape into a magical world. It could also be a story about family, trust, and courage. This focus on emotional depth within a fantasy framework helped shift expectations for similar films, encouraging creators to develop characters who felt real and whose personal journeys mattered as much the mythical creatures and thrilling action. By centering the story on the Grey siblings and their relationship with their mother, the film made the magic serve the narrative instead of overshadowing it. This approach influenced later family-oriented fantasy films and series where emotional stakes are carefully balanced with adventurous elements. In the years following its release, the Spiderwick Chronicles quietly became a reference point for filmmakers and writers exploring fantasy that bridges the gap between childhood wonder and more mature themes. It demonstrated that films could respect the intelligence of younger audiences without talking down to them, and that stories involving magical creatures could carry messages about growing up, facing fears, and sticking together through tough times. This legacy of mixing fantasy with heartfelt storytelling can be seen echoed in various works that followed, from TV shows to movies, where the family unit often plays a central role in the unfolding adventure. The movie's impact extends beyond just its storytelling style. Its visual effects, though, created over a decade ago, were praised for their thoughtful blend of practical puppetry and digital animation. This mix helped the fantasy creatures feel tangible and real, inviting audiences to believe in their existence without overwhelming the story. The success of these effects encouraged filmmakers to consider how practical and digital techniques could be combined to serve the narrative more effectively. As technology has advanced, many have Look back at films like the Spiderwick Chronicles for inspiration on how to balance visual spectacle with emotional storytelling. Though it did not dominate award seasons, the film earned recognition for its craft, particularly in areas like production design, costume, and visual effects. These achievements marked important milestones for fantasy films aimed at families, showing that smaller budget productions could deliver quality and detail that rivaled larger blockbusters. The design of the magical world, from the detailed Spiderwick estate to the unique look of each creature, set a standard for creating immersive fantasy environments that feel lived in and believable. This attention to detail has inspired other filmmakers seeking to build rich fantasy worlds without relying solely on CGI. Over time, the Spiderwick Chronicles has maintained a dedicated fan base, partly thanks to the ongoing popularity of the original book series, and partly because of the movie's own merits. Fans appreciate how the film respects the spirit of the books while offering a cinematic experience that stands on its own. This dual appeal has kept the story alive in the public imagination, encouraging discussions, fan creations, and renewed interest whenever the film is rewatched or revisited. The movie's role as a bridge between literature and the film has become an example of how adaptations can succeed by balancing fidelity with creative freedom. In the broader cultural context, the movie touched on themes that remain relevant today: family unity in times of uncertainty, the importance of believing in things beyond the obvious, and the courage it takes to face unknown dangers. These ideas resonate in a world where audiences seek stories that offer both hope and realism, even within fantastical settings. This thematic relevance has helped the film endure, allowing new generations to discover and connect with its messages long after its initial release. The legacy of the Spiderwick Chronicles also includes its impact on the careers of its young cast, many of whom went on to continue working in film and television, carrying forward the experience and skills gained during production. Their performances demonstrated that young actors could handle complex roles in fantasy films, paving the way for more casting directors to trust youthful talent with emotionally demanding. Beyond the story and performances, the Spider Chronicles carries themes that resonate broadly. It touches on family loyalty, the courage to face the unknown, and the power of belief in things beyond what's immediately visible. These themes are woven throughout the narrative in subtle ways, enriching the fantasy adventure with layers of meaning. This thoughtful approach is one reason why the film continues to be remembered and appreciated years after its release. Behind the scenes, the dedication of the cast and crew shines through in the final product. The collaborative atmosphere during filming, the blending of practical and digital effects, and the director's focus on authentic emotions all contributed to a movie that feels both magical and grounded. Stories from the set reveal a team passionate about bringing the world of Spiderwick to life, making the movie more than just an adaptation, but a crafted experience with care and attention. As the film has found its place in pop culture, it has also influenced how family fantasy stories are told. Its balance of emotional depth and imaginative adventure has encouraged filmmakers to create works that respect their audience's intelligence and feelings, offering more than just escapism. This influence extends to the way fantasy characters and worlds are designed, reminding creators to keep the story and emotions at the heart of their work. For viewers who haven't yet experienced the Spiderwick Chronicles, the movie offers an invitation to step into a world where magic feels possible because the characters are so real. It's a chance to join the Grace family on their thrilling journey full of danger, discovery, and moments of genuine connection. For those already familiar with the film, revisiting it reveals new details and emotions each time, proving that good stories grow with us. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the Spiderwick Chronicles, there's plenty more to explore about films that bring magic and heart to the screen. Make sure to like and subscribe to stay updated with more content that uncovers these stories behind your favorite movies explores characters, and shares fascinating insights from the world of cinema. Your support helps us keep the magic alive, so stay tuned for upcoming videos and discussions that continue to celebrate great storytelling in film. Whether you are a longtime fan or new to the story, and some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting. And if you like this video, please like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.